Hello, itching. Okay, but I'm going to talk about what the Lord says. This is a video log. Now, like I said, this is the usual, this comes from my usual 2 to 3 a.m. Bible study class, okay? Now, they're going to come a far away. They're going to become antichrist. All these pastors, evangelists, very popular ones that you know about, that you've heard of. This was already prophesied by David Wilkerson anyway. Now, in Psalms 106:28, he says, they have joined themselves to this very day to Baal of Peor. In other words, to Baphomet. They have become Satan worshipers. So they worship God by day. They have these church services, but they really are Satan worshipers. Okay, some of them eat human flesh. He says they ate sacrifices made to the dead. That was even in ancient times, and they're doing it today. Number 29 says they provoked him to anger with their deeds. And that is not to mention the traditional stealing of money from the widows and the orphans, even to this day, and the exploitation of the poor. Thus, the plague broke out among them. See, judgment is beginning at the house of God. Now, God is judging the world and the church, but judgment begins at the church. Thus, the plague broke out among them. When the church is judged and the world is judged. See, when the world is judged and the church is judged, innocent people get caught up in it. You know, all these deaths, these are innocent people who are caught up in the judgment. See, when King David was king, he did some type of sin and God broke out. He put a plague on Israel. Tens of thousands died. And they didn't have anything to do with David's sin, but it's just that they got caught up in the judgment. And so to this day, these pastors, evangelists who are antichrist, I've only counted 5 that who aren't, maybe 4 or 5. They are still unrepentant. They're still just as arrogant as ever. You know, one said last Sunday, money just keeps coming into me. He hasn't learned a lesson. He hasn't learned anything. Okay. And the Lord didn't trust any of these antichrist pastors and preachers and evangelists to even tell them there was going to come a plague out of China. Didn't he trust anyone? Okay. Now, Trump rules by voodoo. Will let voodoo save him. And I'm going to tell you, voodoo is not going to save him, because Satan cannot cast out Satan. This plague cannot happen without God's permission. Okay. Well, let voodoo save Trump. He rules by voodoo. He hasn't learned his lesson either. He's unrepentant. He's just as arrogant as ever. These pastors and evangelists who are antichrist, they just as arrogant as ever. They are part of the end time deception. The Lord says they have mingled themselves with the Gentiles. That's why these leaders can't be saved. They have served idols, Baphomet. God said he's going to scatter them in the lands. You know, after this is over with, there's going to be some ministry in churches that do not exist. That was a bug. They're not going to even exist anymore. Okay. Sifting is a chore. Woo. Sifting is a chore. And you don't sift forever and ever. There's a time period. So this plague does have a time period. I don't know what it is. Nobody else does either. Okay. But what is the Lord saying? If you want to worship Baphomet, if you want to be a Satan worshiper and preach my gospel, guess what? You won't have a church. If you want to murder in church, you won't have a church. If you want to commit all these sexual sins with heterosexually, homosexually, and with children, you will not have a church. Okay. Some of these churches and ministries will not remain when this is over with. They will not remain. Okay. Now, the Lord also taught me about hope. Okay, he also taught me about hope. He said, Psalms 106:44, I have heard their cry, and he relented according to the multitude of his mercies, because the word says he's abounding in mercy. He would deliver you from destruction. He saved, in Psalms 107:19, he saved them out of their distress. He brings them out of their destruction. In Romans 15:1, he said, bear with the weak, help the weak. We really should love each other. Help the weak, help the people who are handicapped. This is not a time to be selfish. Judgment will begin at the house of God. Have a nice day.